Hello everyone, go support Kenchi 618 on fanfiction.net, but let's begin. Chapter 7, Soul Society Turned Upside Down. 5 hours before the execution. The day of Rukia's execution had come too fast for any of the would-be rescuers' liking. Naruto was worried about the whereabouts of Orihime, Yuryu, and Chad, but Yoruichi told him to stay with them until the actual time of attack on the Tsukioku. This wasn't his mission and he had no true personal stake in it, so he followed Yoruichi's orders, trusting her to know the right thing to do in this instance. After all, she had commissioned him to work on this with her, not the other way around. Renji walked over to Yoruichi and Naruto, who were both still watching Ichigo train with Zangetsu, still doggedly trying to find the appropriate sword for his Bankai. So do you think that he can really pull it off and obtain his Bankai, because we're out of time here? On the battlefield of the training ground, Ichigo was knocked aside by his Zanpakuto spirit Zangetsu once more. Just because you're growing weaker doesn't mean I'm going to make the training any easier on you. This is all up to you, Ichigo. Multiple Zangetsus stood all around Ichigo holding swords. One more time now. Ichigo smirked and growled before grabbing another sword from the ground and charging right back into the fray. Stop yapping already, old man. I'm not going to give you an excuse to go easier on me. Yoruichi pondered the answer, never taking her eyes off of Ichigo. Ichigo needs to realize deep down that he has the ability to possess great power. However difficult it seems, I believe in him. I know he can master his Bankai. She stood in silence for a moment before speaking again. Do you remember learning to walk? Renji looked taken back for a moment by the question. What? How could I possibly remember something like that? If you don't consciously remember, then you don't consciously know how to do it. Yoruichi's words continued to confuse Renji. If so, how are you able to still walk? It's because every person knows how to walk after they are born. Just like birds know how to fly, just like fish know how to swim, it's simple instinct. Because they instinctively know their strength, they won't think twice before trying to acquire that strength when the time comes. She continued to speak as Ichigo fought it out with the multiple forms of Zangetsu. Seeing Ichigo's determined face reminds me of instinct. I think he knows deep down that he can do this. I believe in my heart that he was born with the ability to achieve Bankai. Renji stood in silence as the sounds of Ichigo's struggle continued before he finally turned to leave. Well, in that case, I'm off. Naruto turned to Renji with a thoughtful look on his face. Why are you leaving now? Why not just wait a little while and leave with us? It's got to give you a better chance. Bankai or not, from what I've seen, these captains are no joke. Renji let out a laugh. This one's personal, Uzumaki. It's a goal of mine to defeat my captain. I don't see a better opportunity to take my chance than now, especially when I have a true reason to fight him. Want some help? Naruto asked him with a helpful smile. Yoruichi can watch Wonder Boy and I can go with you to keep riffraff away, maybe even help you fight the guy. It's Byakuya, isn't it? Renji shook his head. No, this is something I have to do alone. I'll catch up with the rest of you by the time you're done here. Good luck. Naruto said honestly. Over the day that Renji had been there, he had seen and heard that he truly cared for Rukia. He couldn't help but want to go with him. All of the anticipation for the inevitable conflict that was to take place was making him antsy. He hadn't felt this ready for a fight in so long, he had almost forgotten what it felt like. As Yoruichi kept her gaze set firmly on Naruto, said Blonde stood up and began walking to a secluded section of the facility. You can stay with Ichigo. I'm going to go prepare for the battle. Come get me when it's time to leave, Yoruichi-chan. XXX. 11th Division Headquarters. 2 Shinigami were busy sweeping the streets of the HQ, however one held his head as he was nursing a hangover from the previous night. Ugh, I drank too much last night, damn it. The second Shinigami off to the side scoffed. It's not just that, dumbass. You smoked too much too. Otherwise you wouldn't be drowsy. Meh, shut up. The first one replied to his partner for the day. Stop mouthing off to me just because you lost in that spar yesterday, or I'll just beat the shit out of you again. The other Shinigami threw his broom to the ground and put his hand on his Zanpakuto. What? Draw your sword. I'll polish you off before I get to work cleaning the street. Ha! The first Shinigami said, grabbing his own Zanpakuto. Polish? That sounds so lame, you loser. Prepare to get your ass kicked. The two then stopped as the sound of furious charging started getting closer. Oi, what's that sound? At that point, Zaraki Kenpachi flew around the corner and ran past them full speed, getting the two to freak out and get back to work quickly. Madare Mikaku, a bald Shinigami, soon followed, running past them as well. Idiots. You need to lay low when you're slacking off. Ikaku's partner, a rather effeminate man with purple jaw-length hair and feathers on his eyebrow, ran past them next. leave one speck of dirt and I'll kill you both. The two watched their superiors follow Kenpachi and scratched their heads. What the hell is going on? And I think I saw two people on the captain's back. Kenpachi kept running, navigating the maze of the Siriidii. And now which way do we go, woman? He asked. Orihime appeared over one of his shoulders. It's probably dash dot. She was cut off by a small girl with pink hair headbutting her in the head out of the way. It's this way. She said, pointing in a random direction. Ken-chan thinks we should go this way too, right? Ikaka decided to speak up. I think it's best if we leave it to Orihime to decide. Yachira Fukatechu has a helplessly bad sense of direction. Yachira spit a loogie on Ikaka's head. Shut up, marble head. Yumachika tried calming Ikaka down before he attempted to throttle the little girl, leaving Kenpachi with no answer on where to go. Never mind, what a nuisance. I'll decide myself on where to find Kurosaki. XXX. Inside of a jail cell sat Yuryu, a heavily bandaged Ganju, and Chad. A butterfly suddenly drifted into the cell, catching Yuryu's attention. Oh look, a butterfly. So cute. Is it spring in Soul Society? He wondered, in his own world at the moment. Ganju narrowed his eyes at Yuryu through his bandages while Chad simply watched with a sweat drop, mumbling to yourself about butterflies, so hopeless. He let out a sigh and spoke in his normal tone. If you want to, you can chase it around too, Yuryu. I won't tell anyone about this. Yuryu stopped paying attention to the butterfly and started sputtering. Don't try to trick me. I'm not going to chase a butterfly. Don't call me by my first name either. I don't think we're that close yet. Ganju snapped back at him. What? I don't think we're that close either. Chad simply sat patiently while the two started arguing. It was obviously because they were bored. There was nothing they could do in their cells anyway, with all of the sekiseki abundant, keeping them from using their powers. However, Chad suddenly hushed them. Do you hear a ruckus somewhere? Yuryu stopped and listened. Actually, now that you mention it. Does it sound like it's coming closer? Wait, no. Did it stop? All of a sudden the ceiling in the middle of the room burst open, covering the room in smoke. However, it quickly dispersed to let Ganju see a few faces he was rather familiar with. You're. Holy shit, it's Saraki Kenpachi, the 11th Division captain. And the bald guy that fought Ichigo. And that self-absorbed guy with the sissy hairstyle. Yumachika looked at him with a tick mark on his head. I'm sorry, but do I know you? I tend to forget about people who are ugly. Orihime suddenly popped out from behind Kenpachi's shoulder. Ishida-kun. Ganju-kun. Sato-kun. I'm so glad you're all safe. All of the others looked at her in shock at seeing her there with a group of Shinigami. Inoue-san? Yuryu said, what exactly is going on here? XXX. Kuchiki Family Manor. Byakuya-sama, it is almost time to head to the Tsukioku. Byakuya quickly replied, I see. He was looking intently at a picture of a woman that looked much like Rukia. I'm going Hizana. XXX. 2nd Division Headquarters. Omida marched through the halls stuffing his face with a bag of chips. This is so stupid. First these Ryoka all attack and now everyone's arguing whether or not this execution is legit. The decision's already been made. What's there to talk about? Don't you think so, Captain? He asked to Soifan, who was walking beside him. What a lame thing to wonder about. She said to her lieutenant, I couldn't care less if it were right or wrong. All I care about are executing my orders as a captain of the Godii 13. All who get in my way are enemies. She thought firmly to the battle she had just waged with a certain intruder of the Siriidii a few days earlier. All enemies must be slain. That is all that matters. Omida stopped eating and decided to comment, are you talking about that guy that got away from you before? That Uzumaki guy? Well, he did make the Siriidii Communication Monthly magazine actually readable for the first time in like ever. Maybe I should get them to do the same thing for me. I'm nobility after all. I should be way more interesting than that commoner. Everything I said goes for you too, Omida. Soifan said coldly as she turned to look at him. Don't forget where your loyalties lie. If you get in my way, you too will be my enemy. Omida wiped the crumbs from his face along with the sweat that had formed from the intent that Soifan had focused on him. I'll remember that, Captain. Soifan continued walking from her division's HQ to Tsukioku Hill, the site of the execution of one Kuchiki Rukia, a place she assumed she would find one maddeningly skilled blonde and use that opportunity to finish him off for good. I will destroy you, Uzumaki Naruto. Talented Ryoka or not, you are still an enemy to the Siriidii, and I will not betray my superiors like my former mistress. If you show your face at this execution, you and anyone else with you will die. XXX. 8th Division Headquarters. A Shinigami captain with long brown hair tied in a ponytail, a pink-flowered kimono over his other gear, and a straw hat lay on the roof of his HQ looking up at the sky chewing on a blade of grass. He had thin facial hair around his mouth and on his cheeks as if he missed a shave or two recently. A woman appeared over the side of the building standing on a ladder. She had black hair that she kept pinned back and glasses that adorned her rather beautiful face. "Ah, Captain, there you are. Please get up and get ready to go. It's almost time." "Nanao-chan." The captain whined before speaking normally. "I have a few problems that I'm not sure what to do about. Care to hear about them?" Nanao frowned but climbed the rest of the way onto the roof and sat down next to her captain. "What is it, Shunsui Taishu?" she asked him. "Well," he said with a sigh as he began to explain, "the truth is, I was distressed and I tried to relax by chewing on this blade of grass, but I don't know if it's poisonous or not. My mouth got numb and I'm dumbfounded." Nanao immediately ripped the offending piece of flora from his mouth, then threw it away. She stood up and began walking back towards the edge of the roof. "Nanao-chan," he said more seriously than before, what should I do?" She turned around, rather uncomfortable about what to do. "Why are you asking me? No matter what I say on the matter, you're still going to end up doing whatever you feel like in the end." She adjusted her glasses when he looked at her, listening intently on what she was saying. "Don't worry about me. I will follow you at a safe distance so that I won't get dragged into anything." He let out a small laugh. "That's bad then, because once again I'll be the only one getting scolded by Yamaji. XXX. Tsukioku Hill Hideout. Naruto sat meditating with two clones. In this state he found that he was able to bond himself with the erasure that comprised the Soul Society so much easier than he could from the energy on Earth, and it utterly fascinated him and left him excited. The energy comprising the entire plane of existence in its entirety was Naruto's to use and draw upon freely. Due to his bond with the environment of the Soul Society, he was able to easily sense the battles carrying on throughout the area. There must be more people than just Renji who think that this execution is wrong. He was able to locate Chad, Yuryu, Orihime, and Ganju and was relieved to find their life force strong and well. However, something had changed with Yuryu, something he couldn't properly sense at the moment. He frowned when he felt Renji's Ryoryoka fade from his senses, but when he felt it slowly stabilize and begin growing again, he settled down and made to stand up when the air around him was filled with an intense but familiar Ryatsu that brought a huge grin to his face and stirred him from his own personal preparations. "Alright, you guys know what to do. Stay here and keep focusing and we'll be fine. We'll get through this. I'll call you when I need you." Walking away from his own section of the Seriidii, he saw Yoruichi looking towards the cliffside entrance of the hideout with a grin on her face. Obviously Wonder Boy was able to pull it off. "Where's he at now?" Yoruichi turned to Naruto and began walking towards the hidden entrance. "I lent him a little something so that he could get to the scene of the execution faster. Are you ready to go?" Naruto started cracking his knuckles with a serious look on his usually carefree whisker-marked face. "I've been ready for 3 days. Let's go kick some Shinigami ass already. Do we have a plan?" "Nope." Yoruichi chirped cheerfully as they started walking towards the exit. "So we have 3 captains already fighting each other for some reason. Our little group is still alive and well, but they're nowhere near here, and technically it's just you, me, and Ichigo against the remaining captains," he said, tightening his bandana with his old village insignia on it around his neck. "Those sound like my kind of odds." Yoruichi's grin grew at hearing that as she chimed in with some more facts that he had neglected to leave off of the rundown. "Let's take into account that we don't even have a concrete plan of getting out of here once we get Rukia." Naruto pointed at her in acknowledgement of her analysis, getting her to giggle. "Come on. What happened to all of that swagger and bravado you walked into all of this with?" "It hasn't gone anywhere," he defended. "I'd just like to save my gloating for after I win and we all get out of this in one piece." Both of them then felt the Ryatsu from the Tsukioku. "Alright, let's go start some trouble." Yoruichi opened the door and both of them took off with their respective speed techniques. XXX. Tsukioku Execution Site. In front of a large halberd stood Captain Commander Yamamoto, who was facing Rukia. "Alright. As you have requested, by tomorrow morning the Ryoka that have infiltrated the Seriidii will be sent back safely." Rukia smiled at him gratefully. "Really? Thank you, Yamamoto Suteicho." Unohana Retsu's Lieutenant Kotetsu Isane, a tall young woman with short gray spiky hair, of it braided on the side, frowned at what she was seeing before Rukia's execution. "How cruel. He says that even though he doesn't plan on letting any of them live." Unohana shook her head in the negative. "That is not cruelty, Isane, that is kindness." Since her end is unavoidable, at the very least this will let her pass away peacefully. A group of masked Shinigami made their way to the execution platform around the Sukioku, prompting Yamamoto to begin the execution. Release the seal of the Sukioku. Ropes that were holding the giant halberd in place began loosening and snapping as a mighty flame sparked ablaze and engulfed the weapon in the shape of a phoenix. Rukia was elevated off of the ground and held in the air by support beams, Kiku. This is the true form of the spearhead of the Sukioku and the executioner of the grand penalty. After it pierces a criminal's body, the penalty will end. Rukia stared down the terrifying weapon with an unwavering look. I'm not scared. I'm completely content with my life. From meeting Renji and the others, to being adopted by Byakuya Oniyama, Kayandano's guidance, and Ichigo's attempted rescue. No pain, no regrets, no sadness. There is nothing for my heart to linger in this world for. Thank you all and goodbye, she thought as tears started coming down her face. However, before the execution weapon got close, Ichigo appeared in front of Rukia, heavily bandaged and wearing a cape of sorts. Yo! Ichigo was holding back the force of the weapon with nothing more than his Zanpakuto. Rukia looked at him in disbelief as the phoenix was held in place by Ichigo, who didn't seem to be straining at all. Ichigo. You idiot. Why did you come again? Ichigo looked at her, utterly shocked that she was angry that he had come back. You know you can't win against my brother. You'll really get killed this time. I've already made peace with this, so I don't need you to rescue me. Go back. Soifan looked up at Ichigo and Rukia from her spot safely away from the Sukioku in surprise, the destructive force equivalent to 1,000,000 Zanpakutos combined. He stopped it using nothing more than his lone blade. Who is that man? The phoenix drew away from Ichigo for another go-around, making space for a second attack. Come on then, he said, ignoring Rukia's cries to get him to stop. Before the two could clash again, something wrapped around the neck of the phoenix, attracting attention to the newly arrived Yukitake alongside two of his underlings. Shunsui immediately leapt to his side to assist him. Yo handsome. You sure do like making people wait for you, don't you? Yamamoto looked at his two captains moving to stop the Sukioku in utter astonishment. Yukitake apologized to his fellow captain. Sorry. Breaking the seal took longer than expected, but we can still handle this just fine. While the main execution weapon was being handled, Ichigo stabbed his sword into the platform that was holding Rukia suspended, breaking it in half. Stop telling me to run away, it's annoying. I told you I don't care what you say. He said as he held Rukia securely under his arm. This is the second time I've had to save you, Rukia. I'm not thanking you for this, you idiot, she said, trying to hold back her tears. Ichigo smirked as he looked down at Byakuya. That's fine. Rukia looked down and felt like a burden towards the whole situation. Let me ask you something. What do you plan to do from here? There's no way we can get out of this mess safely. We run, Ichigo said simply. Rukia looked up at him with a fearful expression. That's not possible, we're surrounded by captains. We can't run past them. Ichigo looked away from her in annoyance. Then we'll beat them up before we run. What do you want from me? His face took on a look of determination. I'm not just here for you though. Inoue, Ishida, and Chad all came. Ganju and Hinataru too. Everyone that helped me get this far. I'm getting them all out of here too. Looking down, they saw that someone had beaten up all of the executioners that had set off the Sukioku. Renji. He looked up and grinned when he saw Rukia safe and sound. I'm so glad you're alive, Renji, she said to herself when she found herself hoisted above Ichigo's head by her waist. Ichigo, what are you doing? As he saw Ichigo wind up, Renji couldn't believe what he was about to see. Oh no way. You've got to be kidding me. Catch! Ichigo threw Rukia directly at Renji all the way down from where they had been beforehand, forcing Rukia to land firmly right in his stomach like a dart and send him flying back across the ground. The two got up and started yelling at Ichigo before he cut them off. Don't just stand there, take her out of here. That's your job, Renji. Don't let go of her even if it kills you. Renji nodded and immediately did as instructed, fleeing the site with Rukia in his grasp quickly. As the multiple lieutenants stood watching what happened in disbelief, Soifan got them all into action. Why are you standing there like an idiot? She yelled at Omida. Go after them. That goes for you other lieutenants as well. They all set out to chase after Renji when Ichigo landed from his position on the execution platform in front of them. They immediately made to release the shuriken of their Zanpakuto, but before anyone could register an attack, Ichigo had punched straight through Omida's, breaking it with one hit and taking him out of the fight. He curved around and hit the second one with an uppercut, swiftly dispatching him from the fight as well. Isane watched how Ichigo had broken the two lieutenants with the slightest of efforts. Unbelievable, and he hasn't even used his Zanpakuto yet. Ichigo blurred from her sight, alerting her to danger, however he swiftly knocked her unconscious as well. After disposing of the 3 lieutenants, Ichigo pulled Zangetsu up to block a sneak attack from Byakuya, bringing a feral smirk to his face. I told you already, I can see your every move, Kachiki Byakuya. Why? Byakuya asked as the two clashed blades. Why do you so persistently try to save Rukia? Ichigo pushed back harshly with an angry look on his face. I'm the one who should be asking questions. Aren't you Rukia's older brother? Why aren't you trying to help her at all? Byakuya simply brushed the question off. What a pointless question. Even if I tell you the answer to that question you wouldn't be able to understand. Continuing this empty dialogue is useless. The two pushed against one another before springing away. It looks like there is only one way to end this. Kurosaki Ichigo, I will kill you, and then I will carry out Rukia's execution with my own hands. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. That's not going to happen. I came here to make sure of that. The two rushed at each other and clashed blades again. Nei-san. One of Yukate's assisting underlings, the female, Kion, ran over to her sister, Unohana's lieutenant, who had been knocked out by Ichigo. Wait, Kion. Yukate's other underling Sentaro yelled out to her as she ran over to where Ichigo and Byakuya were fighting. Kachiki Taisho is fighting there. You'll get dragged in if you get close. Before he could reach her to stop her, he felt himself get knocked out of the way harshly by Soifan, who appeared behind Kion with a look that completely lacked humor or mercy. Yukate immediately moved to defend her. Soifan, stop. Before he could go, he found Yamamoto standing in front of him. Don't move. The old grizzled leader said to the two captains. The person who ran off with the criminal was a lieutenant. He can be slain and easily replaced. That matter can wait. However, I cannot forgive you for what you two have done. You are captains and yet you've done the unthinkable. You both must know yourselves of the crimes you've committed. Shusui grabbed Yukate from behind and grinned at Yamamoto. I see it can't be helped then. Let's get the hell out of here, Yukate. He held on to his friend and jumped from the side of the hill, leaving the old man behind. Wait, Shunsui. He said frantically, my people are still back there. Calm down. The mellow captain said to assuage his fears, if you stay there and fight with Yamaji we'll both be killed. Your people will be fine. Don't you sense the two other people still back there? They're on our side. Triple X. Soifan stomped on Kion's chest and looked down at her coldly. Scum. You betrayed the honor bestowed upon you as seated officers and you betrayed us. Don't worry, however, I will not prolong your shameful existence. I will purge the world of your stench right now. Era. Come on now, my little bee. That isn't very nice. Soifan's head whipped around to see Naruto standing on a nearby rock formation with his arms crossed and a grave expression on his face. Miss me? He looked down at his chest. Obviously you have, because I still have your little love mark on me. I missed you too, beautiful. He gestured towards himself. Why don't you come on over here and we can catch up? Uzumaki. Soifan growled out, forgetting about Kion instead to glare out at him. I thought you were a better tactical warrior than that. You could have taken that opening to attack me. Instead you're giving me the opportunity to finish what I started. Maybe, Naruto said admittedly, but there are two problems with that. 1. I have to let you release your Zanpakuto for you to try it. 2. I'm not the one you should be worried about. I'm just a decoy. Before Soifan could attack him or question him, a blur flew at her and swept her off her feet before taking her over the edge of the cliff, leaving Naruto to himself, and that takes care of that problem. Go Yoruichi-chan. He sensed a presence coming his way, but instead of turning to fight he let it walk right past him towards all of the wounded. Unohana didn't look back at Naruto as she drew her Zanpakuto. You didn't attack me. Naruto shook his head. There was no need. You had the drop on me and didn't attack me. I'm not here to fight anyone, just to help some people right a wrong. He gave her a small smile. Besides, I was never one for trying to hurt women for no reason. Hurting a beautiful woman like you would make me feel bad. He then looked down at his chest and smiled at Soifan's mark having vanished. Well, Yoruichi-chan must be a bigger priority over yours truly. Unohana gave a slight laugh. I'm going to remove the wounded from the area. This area will need to be clear for what's about to happen. Naruto gave her a questioning look. Are Ichigo and Byakuya going to tear the place up that much? Her Zanpakuto transformed into a green, gas-like substance before turning into a giant green one-eyed manta ray. Unohana hopped on board the creature and allowed it to swallow up all of the wounded from both Ichigo and Soifan's attacks. Not so much them. She said cautiously. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Well then who dash? He let out a sweat drop as he felt an obviously intently intense Ryatsu from quite a ways behind him. Whoever that is, they're coming this way, aren't they? Unfortunately for you, yes. Minazuki, go. She ordered before taking off with her Zanpakuto. I do not think you are a bad person, Uzumaki-san. I would wish you luck, but that would go against my position. By the way, I am Unohana Retsu. Naruto gave her a small salute. Nice to meet you, Retsu-chan. Now I have to go fight for my life, he said, disappearing in a blur towards where he felt the Ryatsu from. XXX. Naruto reappeared in front of Yamamoto, who was still holding himself up with his cane. So is there any chance of you just letting us get away with Rukia? You can't honestly say that giving a kid the power to save his family is worth getting executed over. That's so stupid. It came down from the Central 46 Council that have their power given to them by the Spirit King. Yamamoto said resolutely to the intruder on his lands, once a decision is made it cannot be overturned. He narrowed his eyes at Naruto. You've been running around stirring up quite a panic, haven't you? Naruto settled himself into a fighting stance, and let me guess. You're going to put a stop to it, aren't you? Well, come and try it, Yamamoto GG. I'm not going to be so easy to put down. Yamamoto let out a rather hearty laugh. It isn't very often that I have to chase after little nuisances myself. So come, little one. He noticed the look in Naruto's eyes and had to take back that previous statement. Actually no, not so little. You have the eyes of a warrior more hardened in battle than all but around two of my captains. He lifted his cane as it transformed into his Zanpakuto. I think that for the first time in a long time I will have to work for a victory. Draw your blade. Naruto stood up out of his taijutsu stance. My blade? He quickly swung his arm out to the side as a rather long-bladed rod appeared from his sleeve. I'm not much for blade-on-blade work, but I don't think a kunai would really be enough to do the job this time. He looked at the weapon in his sleeve. I don't really think this thing is going to hold up against yours, but we'll never know until we fight, will we? Naruto stared Yamamoto down, neither moving until the old man drew his sword, forcing Naruto to take that time to launch at him in a preemptive strike. Let's not dally, Yamamoto GG. I can't even try to mess around with you. I have to come at you with full intent to maim right off the bat or you'll probably pick me apart. Rinnegan, Samsara I. Naruto's eyes changed from blue to the ripple pattern synonymous with the famed optic orbs. He clashed weapons with Yamamoto. I'm pleased that you would take me so seriously as to utilize such a powerful tool so soon. Soifan has informed of your capabilities with this technique. Heh, she doesn't really know anything about it. I only used 2 attacks of the Rinnegan on her. One won't work on you since you already are a soul more or less, but the others are good enough. Naruto said, pushing back. I knew this old guy wasn't as frail as that hunched appearance made him look. Deceptive. Naruto held strong against Yamamoto. Is fighting really the only way we can solve this? I don't have anything against you. Silence, boy. Yamamoto said as he continued the struggle against Naruto. One such as you should know that there is no mercy for one that obstructs justice. Your eyes tell me of years that far exceed your appearance. Your justice isn't my justice. Naruto growled to him as the two pushed off of one another and stood at a standoff. Yamamoto shook his head. Don't speak nonsense. There is no sense of individual justice that can override global justice. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Yamamoto and angrily swung the blade in his hand. My ass. There is no such thing as complete justice, even from those in control. Wrongs are committed by everyone, no matter who they are or what they try to do. One man's justice is another's injustice. Arrogant. How arrogant. It is too late for a verbal debate. Yamamoto said as he disposed of his captain's Haori and Shinigami top, revealing a heavily scarred and muscled frame underneath. I will grace you with the shirkai of my Zanpakuto, for one dangerous enough to come out of battle with one of my captains and still be able to fight mere days later, it seems appropriate. Fuck that. Naruto said, blurring from sight to keep Yamamoto from using his shirkai. Naruto slashed at him with his blade that Yamamoto blocked. If you think I'm just going to sit there and let you release that thing without trying to stop it, you must be as senile as you look. No honor? Yamamoto questioned at Naruto disdainfully. Naruto smirked ruefully. You can have all the honor you want, I'd rather win. A clone seamlessly formed behind Yamamoto and launched a kick to the head that the old man blocked with his free arm. However, this left an opening that Naruto used to kick Yamamoto hard in the body, getting the old man to glare and cringe at the attack before the clone ricocheted a punch off of his face. The combined attack concluded with Naruto delivering a spin kick to the face that knocked Yamamoto away. Yamamoto stopped himself from stumbling any further and took aim at Naruto and his clone. Tricky. But how about this, Hada number 32, Akasen, Way of Destruction number 32, Yellow Fire Flash. Yamamoto held up his sword in front of him horizontally and generated a yellow orb of energy that expanded as it fired in a wide arc at Naruto and his clone. Naruto jumped over it, his clone however was unable to as it met its swift end. As he hung in the air from his jump he cursed for overjumping, as Yamamoto took this time to begin unsealing his Zanpakuto, Banzhou Isai Kaijin to dash. Raitun, Jayakukyokusi no Jutsu, Lightning Release, Reverse Polarity. A transparent ball of electricity hit Yamamoto's Zanpakuto from Naruto's hand and interrupted his Shurkai command. The jutsu threw him back along the ground and the old man quickly retook his feet to see that Naruto had landed and blurred toward him. Yamamoto simply blocked Naruto's blade after he reappeared from his use of swift release. A slash from the man broke Naruto's blade, disrupting Naruto's balance and throwing him backwards. Naruto threw the broken rod at Yamamoto, who moved his head and dodged it. Fuck. If only I had time to go to my lockup and get a sword before coming here to the Soul Society. Kubikurabucha would have been invaluable right now. Bakuda number 4, Hainawa, Way of Binding number 4, Crawling Rope. Yamamoto generated a crackling rope of yellow energy in his hands and released it at Naruto. He was caught off guard by the speedy incantation and wound up with his arms and body bound by the rope. Naruto grimaced and started gathering power to break the rather weak Kidu. You think this can hold me? I can still run away until I can break it. I'm sure that you can. Yamamoto admitted, but it wasn't meant to defeat you, it was meant to keep you at bay for a moment. He held up his Zanpakuto, getting Naruto to widen his eyes at realizing what he was going to do. Naruto ran at him and tried throwing kicks at the old man, but without his hands to perform any kind of supplementary ninjutsu, not even a substitution, Yamamoto was able to knock him away with an undefended knee to the body. Banzhou Isai Kaijin to Nace, Ryujin Jaka, reduce all creation to ash, flowing blade-like flame. Naruto's swift release saved him from being instantly incinerated by Yamamoto's Shurkai as flames immediately leapt from the blade and engulfed the immediate area in a firestorm of sorts with flames so intense the sky even felt the effects of the heat, and there isn't even a drop of water for miles. Naruto muttered to himself as the flames surrounding Yamamoto whipped about wildly. Naruto slapped himself several times and shrugged his shoulders. Fine. Bring it on Yamamoto GG. The old warrior began walking through his own flames towards Naruto. Is that it? No matter how powerful you are, you won't be able to defeat my Shurkai with that amount of power. What Soifan had to report about your attacks shows that the skills you showed her won't be enough to defeat me. Naruto had his head down as the sweat from the heat of the attack started forming on his forehead. The binding ropes then broke from Naruto's frame, allowing him to take his jacket off and throw it to the side. His little weapons wouldn't do any good here. The element of surprise was gone. You're going to find out the hard way that giving me chances is the last thing that you want to do. Naruto looked up at Yamamoto with his toad-like eyes with yellow irises and horizontal bar-like pupils to go with his Rinnegan. An orange pigment marked the outside of his eyes, because the first opening you give me could be your last, Captain Commander or not. Yamamoto looked at Naruto in interest as his Ryoryoku skyrocketed and he blasted the area in a stream of Ryatsu intense enough to begin blowing the flames away from him with a powerful wind that cut through the fire. You're strong enough to resist my Shurkai's release without being turned to ashes. This battle will be worthwhile after all. What are you? Triple X. Having expected Yamamoto to follow them away from the cliff, Shunsui and Yukitake were surprised when the release of their overall leader's Zanpakuto filled the sky and atmosphere. Oh man. Shunsui muttered, poor Ryoka. Yamaji is going to burn that guy alive. He sighed, you know we've got to go back and bail him out, right? He said to Yukitake. It would be the right thing to do, you're right. Yukitake said, maybe between the three of us simultaneously we can dash. He was cut off when a power that he could swear came close to matching the brute force of Ryujin Jaka erupted from the same place, forcing him into a coughing fit. Whoever is fighting Yamamoto-sama is powerful. He could be just as strong as both me and Shunsui when we release our Shurkai simultaneously. Shunsui let out an impressed laugh. Well, shall we go back up our new part-time comrade, whomever he may be? The laid-back captain took off towards the site of the battle. Triple X. Yorichi versus Soifan. The two clashed repeatedly atop the trees amid a flurry of disciplined punches and kicks before breaking off and staring one another down. Soifan, clothing at the time was her operational outfit. It had no sleeves and did not cover her back. It also had a slit in the outside of both thighs to her waist where it was tied by a yellow obi, leaving that part visible underneath. Above her long black armbands that extended past the elbow, she had a rather nasty bruise on her shoulder from the current fighting. One hit. You got me once. It looks like that last exchange ended in a draw, Yorichi. Apparently. Yorichi said as she wiped some blood from her lip. That outfit of yours, what kind of tricks does it do? It seems to prevent me from seeing your movements. Tricks? Soifan repeated with an amused smirk. She suddenly blurred out of sight and reappeared behind Yorichi with her zanpakuto drawn into her neck. Is that really what you think? Jintiki Shakusetsu, Suzumabachi, sting all enemies to death, Hornet. Her shurikai activated as she held her bladed gauntlet at Yorichi's neck. Yorichi tried to rapidly escape Soifan's grasp with Shunpa, but Soifan matched her and landed an attack that cut her across the front before she was able to get away at a safe distance from her former underling. Soifan watched Yorichi land on a tree branch, crouched and holding her torso. Why don't you just admit that I'm stronger than you? Does it not occur to you that I'm holding back? You're probably saying, there's no way she would do that. Is that what you're thinking? I already told you not to be so full of yourself. I have long since become stronger than you. She glared right at Yorichi, and now with your death I will make you pay the price of staying away from battle for 100 years. A smirk returned to her face. You remember Suzumabachi's special ability, don't you? I already got you once. Over the area of Yorichi's wound formed the same butterfly mark that was left on Naruto during his fight with Soifan. Fuck. Well, at least it's probably off of Naruto by now. He'd better thank me for this. I should have made him fight her again just to be mean. She then felt the Ryatsu coming off of Yamamoto's shurikai from the spot she left Naruto. Actually, never mind. I think it would have been nicer of me to make him fight Soifan. Here's the second hit, Yorichi. While Yorichi had thought about Naruto fighting Yamamoto, in the split second she did so it gave Soifan an opening to use Shunpa and get behind her for another attack. The attack missed the intended mark however and allowed Yorichi to begin fleeing the area from her dogged opponent. You turned your back to focus on escaping and yet look at yourself. In Yorichi's evasive action she managed to get slashed on the arm in addition to the one on her torso, giving Soifan 2 spots to target instead of 1. Soifan laughed at Yorichi's strategy. Running is useless. My old limit was 30 minutes, now it's as long as my will to hold the seal stays. I know that. The one you had on Naruto lasted at least 3 days. Yorichi thought to herself, I'm not really running either. She came to a sudden stop and swung her leg out at Soifan, launching a knife at her from her boot. Soifan's gauntlet easily blocked it, but Yorichi used it as an opportunity to drop an axe kick. However, Soifan countered it with a rising kick of her own that got the two tangled. They disengaged before hitting the ground, but the close-range scuffle left Yorichi with a cut on her cheek that quickly formed into another of Soifan's seals. Soifan smirked at having Yorichi on the ropes so thoroughly. If you finally understand that I'm the stronger of us, I'll do the honors of ending this. Intense pressurized Ryuryoku that wasn't quite visible, yet still had effect on the environment, flew off of her from Soifan's back, surprising Yorichi at the sight of it. This must be your first time seeing something like this. This is a technique that combines Hakuta combat and Kidu, something I've recently invented. You should feel honored. I didn't even feel this was appropriate to use on Uzumaki in our fight. That was my mistake. Since the completion of this technique you're the only one I've used it on. I don't even have a name for it yet. No. Yorichi cut her off. It has a name. Soifan narrowed her eyes at how Yorichi still didn't seem shaken by what was happening. It's called Shunku, flash cry. She lifted one arm out to the side fully extended. Soifan looked at her in shock. What are you talking about? How could it have had a name, she wondered. She had just invented it herself not too long ago. Do you know why the Amitsukudo head uniform has no sleeves or back? Yorichi asked as she clenched her fist, causing her power to pressurize much like Soifan's did, only hers was fully visible. Because the final form of this technique starts by focusing a huge amount of concentrated energy, then through a concentrated explosion that energy is instilled in the user's arms and legs to enhance them for battle. It blows the clothing on the back and shoulders to bits. Just as she said that, the powerful force she spoke of shredded her clothing, leaving only the portion of her clothes that she specified. Yorichi started walking calmly towards Soifan, flexing her arms out. You know, I wasn't planning to use this against you. She held her arm up at Soifan, palm out. Be careful, Soifan, because... She fired off an intense blast that caused a massive explosion, the scope of which caused her to chuckle and put a smirk on her face, as well as served the purpose of somewhat unnerving Soifan. I can't control it perfectly yet myself. The space between Soifan and Yorichi was marred by a massive trench, carved out by Yorichi's show of force. The landscape on both sides of them was thoroughly cleared. Soifan stood on a little island of untouched land that her opponent had intentionally left. Yorichi looked at her lazily. I never showed you this technique because it's way too dangerous. This isn't possible. Soifan attacked Yorichi again but all in vain. That's enough. Yorichi simply stopped Soifan's hand and held it in place effortlessly. It's still too early for you to use this technique, yours is imperfect. Hanky, reverse demon, ... Soifan thought to herself as she couldn't channel any more power and froze her in place, using an amount of energy equal to an opponent's Kidu to cancel out the opponent's attack. She countered the force of my punch in a split second. She dropped to her knees. How can this be? I'm stronger than you. She got back up and began attacking Yorichi fruitlessly as her every attack was effortlessly defended. I should have surpassed you already. You should have gotten weaker and I should have grown in strength. Why is this happening? Why are you still above me? Why are you still so much stronger? I was so disappointed in you. I hated you. I cursed you. I swore to arrest you with my own hands, to gain strength and surpass you. She kept attacking Yorichi, who listened to her and let her vent her frustrations. I will never forgive you, Yorichi. You betrayed my trust and respect. I can't forgive you. I dash. She stopped raving as Yorichi launched a single finishing punch at her, but stopped short of ending the fight. Tears came to Soifan's eyes. Why? Why didn't you take me with you, Yorichi-sama? Soifan collapsed to the ground in front of Yorichi and began to cry. XXX. Ichigo vs Byakuya. Ichigo smashed his Zanpakuto into Byakuya's again, causing the ground to crack from the force of the attack. The two then immediately jumped back. Byakuya took note of Ichigo's speed. Interesting. You were also able to master Shuinpa as well, however ... You're really taking it easy, aren't you? Ichigo said, you've been casually analyzing my strength. Is that really such a good idea? Aren't you going to come and attack me? He let out a laugh. You haven't scratched me once this time. This can't be the best you can do. His face turned gravely serious, so hurry up and use Bankai already. You said that you were going to kill me and then execute Rukia with your own hands. So? Byakuya queried at Ichigo's displeasure. I don't like it. Ichigo yelled at him, I'm going to use everything I have to beat you. I'll keep coming at you until you have no strength left. Executing your own sister with your own two hands. What a sick joke. No matter what reason you have, no matter the circumstance. Don't ever say that in front of Rukia again. So use your Bankai and I'll break it in front of you. What a shallow taunt, you brat. Byakuya said, narrowing his eyes at Ichigo, no matter what you say I will not change my mind about Rukia's fate, or yours. You want me to use Bankai? Don't forget your place, it is still 1,000 years too early for you to be worthy enough of dying by my Bankai. Chire, Senbenzakura, scatter, Senbenzakura. As Byakuya's sword dispersed in its usual manner, Ichigo's eyes were able to hone in on the small blade and he quickly unleashed a highly condensed blast of power from the tip of his sword that cut through Byakuya's attempted attack and cut through the ground. Interesting. The aristocratic captain uttered, is that the special ability of your Zanpakuto Kurosaki, Ichigo? Yep. He said with a smirk, I've never been able to perform an aimed shot before today. I don't even know how I made it happen until I trained with Zangetsu. Getsuga Tensho, Moonfang Heaven Piercer. He stabbed his blade into the ground. I'll say it again, fight me with your Bankai and I'll definitely win. What an arrogant attack name. Byakuya taunted dryly, so be it. Since you so strongly desire my Bankai, witness it with your eyes and remember well. He turned his sword upside down and dropped it. Don't worry, you won't regret it. Before you can do that you'll most certainly be rendered to dust in front of me. The sword descended into the ground as energy rippled out from around it and turned the sky dark. 2 rows of 1,000 giant blades came up from the ground around himself and Ichigo. Bankai. Senbenzakura Kageyoshi, vibrant display of 1,000 cherry blossoms. The blades then scattered into an impossible to count number of blossom-looking tiny blades. Ichigo pulled his sword from the ground and jumped into the air to avoid a quick rush of the blades before directing himself at Byakuya to attack. How naive. Byakuya commented before a torrent of the blossoms attacked Ichigo from above and slammed him into the ground. The strength of Senbenzakura lies in its ability to attack with countless blades from all directions. Your Zanpakuto's strength is great, however it is impossible to dodge using such slow technique. Ichigo pulled himself up, wounded from countless cuts on his body from Byakuya's attack. I thought I had it, damn it. I guess not though, it's only logical that by using my initial release it's impossible to beat Bankai. I underestimated you like an idiot. Byakuya glared at him dangerously, be careful in your choice of words, brat. You make it sound as if you've acquired Bankai. A laugh escaped Ichigo. Yeah, that's exactly what I was implying, Kuchiki Byakuya. What did you say? Byakuya asked with tone of underlying threat. Responding to a question with a question? Ichigo taunted. I know you heard me. You believe me, don't you? It doesn't matter if I say it 2 or 3 times. If you don't believe my words, I'll show your eyes, Byakuya. Watch carefully, this is my Bankai. Ichigo held out his sword in front of his body as his Ryatsu stared, emitting treacherously, tearing up the landscape abound and shrouding him from view. When the dust cleared, Ichigo stood in a long, ankle-length black coat closed at his chest with a jagged bottom. His sword itself was now thinner, the design of a Daitu with a jet-black blade, Tensa Zangetsu, heaven chain-slaying moon. He said, looking back over his shoulder at Byakuya. XXX. Naruto vs Yamamoto. It's just my luck, of course. Naruto thought to himself as he found himself outrunning the flames from Yamamoto's Zanpakuto. His flames were strong. Naruto couldn't get past the obscene amount of flames to attack the captain commander directly. His wind would just make the fires worse, and of course there's no source of water for me to use a strong enough water jutsu with. It's so dry here that I couldn't pull enough moisture from the atmosphere to make a raindrop. You're quite the elusive one when you want to be Uzumaki. Yamamoto said as he continued to direct his flames at Naruto, trying to cut him off of corral him towards the side of the cliff. Naruto's Sage Mode enhanced swift release speed allowed him to aptly dodge the flames of Ryujin Jaka and scurry up the side of the Tsukioku execution platform with simply raw speed and momentum. From the view given to him up high, Naruto could see that he was cornered and the entire battlefield was covered in flames. Fantastic. He muttered to himself sarcastically, don't make me do this, Yamamoto GG. This is really going to fuck you up if I do. You aren't dodging this. The flames continued to shift about wildly and began climbing the pillar to reach Naruto. If he jumped down he would be jumping right into fire, if he stayed up top he would be more or less burned at the stake. You have nowhere to go. Yamamoto declared to Naruto loudly, surrender and accept your demise gracefully. Naruto started making hand seals, tell you what. You can take that flaming sword, and shove it up your ass, I don't quit. He took a deep breath and punched himself in the stomach hard. Futon, Rankuden, wind release, drilling air bullet. Naruto fired off highly compressed ball of air from his mouth, strong enough to form a shockwave around his mouth when he let it go. The ball flew towards Yamamoto, blowing his flames out of its path and neutralizing his Zanpakuto's Shurikai instant effect. I see. Bakuda number 81, Danku, way of binding number 81, splitting void. A translucent barrier in the form of a rectangular wall formed in front of Yamamoto just as Naruto's volatile attack hit, exploding on contact. As the smoke cleared, the ground in front of the barrier had a crater 75 meters, 246 feet, in circumference, a strong Kidu, but still not strong enough to break my Bakudu. Maybe on one of the normal captains that would have hit dash dot. His taunt died in his throat when he felt an incredible focalized point of Ryuryoku coming from where Naruto had been standing on the Tsukioku. 2 clones stood next to Naruto generating power as the original stood with his hand outstretched overhead, holding a large shuriken of raw energy over his head with a solid orb in the center. It let off a loud bell-like screech. The power of the jutsu began either sucking away or blowing down the flames crawling up after him. Not a Kidu, it's ninjutsu, my ninjutsu. Futon, Raisin Shuriken, Wind Release, Spiraling Shuriken. Yamamoto's usually half-lidded gaze snapped wide open as he felt the strength of the attack in Naruto's hand and immediately began readying a counter, sensing that letting it come at him would end with nothing short of his own complete eradication. Limit of the Thousand's hands, respectful hands, unable to touch the darkness. Shooting hands unable to reflect the blue sky. The road that basks in light, the wind that ignited the embers, time that gathers when both are together. There is no need to be hesitant, obey my orders. Light bullets, 8 bodies, 9 items, Book of Heaven, Disease Treasure, Great Wheel, Grey Fortress Tower. Aim far away, scatter brightly and cleanly when fired. Hada number 91, Senju Akuten Taiho, Way of Destruction number 91, Thousand Hand Bright Heaven Cutting Seer. 10 large pink energy beams formed around Yamamoto, aimed right at Naruto. On the other hand, Naruto narrowed his eyes at the attack Yamamoto was forming and grit his teeth to brace himself. Neither of us are dodging either of these. So let's crash and see who stands up, Yamamoto GG. With one last cry of exertion, Naruto let the Raisin Shuriken rip towards Yamamoto. Just before Naruto threw the Raisin Shuriken, Yamamoto fired his own attack. The beams formed one large one and plowed into Naruto's Raisin Shuriken, which expanded widely on impact, with the resulting explosion obliterating what hadn't been destroyed earlier of the Tsukioku and making an utter wreck of everything within 3 kilometers of the epicenter. XXX. 10 minutes before, Ichigo vs. Byakuya. What is that thing? Byakuya asked rhetorically at the appearance of Ichigo's Bankai. That small blade is his Bankai? Isn't that just the normal sealed form of your Zanpakuto? He narrowed his eyes. I see. With the execution of your Bankai, it appears you enjoy stepping on our pride. Then I will elicit the penalty for such. Byakuya moved his arms to initiate another attack with his own Bankai when Ichigo suddenly appeared right in his face, his blade on Byakuya's neck. If that pride has anything to do with Rukia's execution, then you're damn right I'm going to step on it. That's the whole reason I obtained Bankai. Ichigo then flashed back to his original place. I never saw him move. Byakuya thought to himself, why did you move your blade from my neck? Was it to show your confidence? Arrogance is often the undoing of a victory. I'll say it again, that thing you are holding cannot be Bankai. It is impossible for something so small to be Bankai, and it is impossible for one like you to obtain Bankai. Ichigo narrowed his eyes in annoyance at Byakuya. You'll regret not opening my throat when you had the chance. Miracles only happen once. With that, Byakuya commenced his attack with a storm of blossoms but found that Ichigo's movements were so impossibly fast his attack couldn't keep up. No matter how he directed his Zanpakuto ability at Ichigo, he seemed to be running circles around him. Ichigo cut at Byakuya only for Senbonzakura Kageyoshi to protect Byakuya by blocking his attack. The orange-haired hero then broke off again and began moving so fast it seemed as if he were leaving multiple afterimages. What's wrong? Ichigo taunted. Too fast for you? Did you know I can go even faster? Don't get cocky, brat. Byakuya began moving his hands to direct his attack actively. I can use my hands to increase the speed as well. His attack closed in on Ichigo only for the substitute Shinigami to dice up the attack and keep himself unharmed. As Byakuya looked on in shock, Ichigo got a verbal shot in on him. Earlier you said that miracles only happen once. He vanished from Byakuya's sight and reappeared behind him. Well, what would you call it this time? However, Byakuya grabbed the blade in his hand, taking the damage to analyze the attack. I see, you take all of the power of your Bankai and compress it into a small condensed form. You then use the power granted to you to perform hyper-speed combat. Very well then. This power of yours, I will eradicate it. Ichigo swiftly freed the blade from Byakuya's grip and got some distance away from Byakuya. Kurosaki, watch carefully. This is it. The form that forgoes all defenses and focuses solely on the destruction of the enemy. Senbonzakura's true form. Senkei, Senbonzakura Kageyoshi, annihilate, vibrant display of 1,000 cherry blossoms. The blood from Byakuya's wound glowed and turned to energy that mixed with his Bankai blades, forming into complete glowing swords that formed 4 floating rows that circled all around Ichigo and himself in the form of a column. Seeing the look of fear on Ichigo's face, decided to assuage some of it. Don't worry. These 1,000 swords will not strike you all at once. I swore that this Senkei would only be shown to the person I wished to slay personally. One of the swords drifted into his hand and took the form of his usual, sealed Zanpakuto. You are the second person to ever see this. He said as he took one of the swords as it formed the appearance of his unsealed Zanpakuto. Ichigo smirked at Byakuya. Thanks for the compliment. The two then began to clash blades once more repeatedly. The two traded damage back and forth, the blood from their wounds staining the ground, rocks, and even the elevated swords forming Byakuya's technique. Ichigo, however, was steadily taking more damage from Byakuya as time dragged on. The two clashed again when Byakuya decided to comment, your moves have become sluggish, Kurosaki. Ichigo. Really? Ichigo cracked back, from how I see it, your sword is moving so slowly it's like you're not even moving. In reply to the cheeky young warrior, Byakuya drove his sword through Ichigo's foot before placing 2 fingers against Ichigo's shoulder. Hada number 4, Byakurai, Way of Destruction number 4, White Lightning. A burst of lightning fired from his fingertips through Ichigo's shoulder, allowing Byakuya to free his blade and allow Ichigo to slump to his knees. This is your limit. He noticed Ichigo sneer up at him and continued to speak. Did you think my speed increased after Senkei? No, Senkei increased the killing power of my attacks. It does not affect my speed. Ichigo let out a growl as he realized what was being implied. I'm the one who got slower. You did good coming this far. Byakuya said to the downed Ichigo, you survived battle with a captain, and then after sustaining damage from Senbonzakura you were able to keep going. But you must feel it by now, no matter how hard you push your body won't move. It's over, he said as he lifted his sword overhead. As the blade descended to end his life, Ichigo's hand shot out and stopped its descent. Idiot. I told you if you die then I suffer too. Byakuya recoiled in shock as Ichigo rose up, still holding his sword in his grasp. How is this possible? Who are you? Who am I? Ichigo said manically, keeping his head low to reveal nothing more than a feral grin. I'm nobody. You ask me who I am, but I have no name. He slashed Byakuya across the chest, cackling wildly at the blood that sprayed through the air while Byakuya stumbled backwards. You're really worthless after all, Ichigo. Just being in his Bankai's Ryatsu made your bones shake like crazy. You're such a disgrace. Watch carefully, and I'll show you how to use Bankai correctly. Ichigo let off a slash of his sword that let loose a black wave of energy, Kurwagetsuga, Black Moon Fang. Byakuya was forced to block the attack, winding up with him taking multiple wounds all over his body from the resulting explosion. This Ryatsu, and that mask. Are you a hollow? The mask on Ichigo's face continued to expand across his face as he laughed at Byakuya's wounds. This Ichigo was seemingly able to ignore his multiple wounds previously suffered to keep coming at Byakuya full force. Ha. You don't need to know that because soon you'll dash. His hand suddenly reached up and began peeling the mask from his own face. Gah. Damn it, let go. Don't get in the way. Leave. You're the one getting in the way. The hollow Ichigo roared back savagely. Just let me keep fighting and we'll win, don't you see? You damned idiot. Ichigo finally ripped the mask off of his face and breathed heavily in exhaustion. Phew, sorry about that. My inner demon got in the way. He held his sword up in front of him with a smirk. Come on. Let's start again from the beginning. I see. Byakuya thought to himself, fighting like that no matter what injury you wound up dealing me was never your true intention, was it? Byakuya held his own sword at the ready. Very well. I'll disregard what happened earlier. Neither of us has the strength to keep this up any longer. Therefore let us end this with the next blow. Fine. Ichigo agreed before speaking again. Wait, let me ask you something. Why don't you try to save Rukia? Byakuya closed his eyes. If you defeat me I'll answer that question. Ichigo smirked in response. Shukiai, Hakatiken, Ends Cape, White Emperor Sword. All of the swords surrounding the two made their way into a single powerful sword focusing all of Byakuya's power. The white aura took the form of a bird, forming wings of energy on Byakuya's back and surrounding his body with a halo. Amazing. Ichigo eagerly admitted, Zangetsu hasn't taught me awesome tricks like that. I only have the Getsuga Tensho, so the best I can do is to put all of my strength into one hit, so here I go. A jagged black aura started emerging from Ichigo's sword as he charged in. Kuchiki Byakuya. The two powerful Shinigami clashed against one another in a clash of power that could be seen from around the Seriidii. Amid the dust stirred from the attack, the two stood post-attack having passed one another, still as statues until a vicious wound opened up from Ichigo's back. No. I can't fall now. As he thought this, the same thing happened to Byakuya, only all across his front as he stumbled ahead. You wanted to know the reason for my support of Rukia's death. He started talking, surprising Ichigo as he remembered the terms of Byakuya speaking on this. One who commits a crime must suffer the consequences. If one is sentenced to death, the execution must take place. Those are the rules. Even if she's your own sister? Ichigo choked out painfully and angrily. Are you referring to some sort of sibling bond? He wondered as Ichigo turned to face his back. What a foolish notion. In light of the rules, all personal feelings have no value. And something as useless as emotions. I never had them to begin with. He turned his head to face Ichigo, face covered in blood. The Kuchiki clan is one of the four noble families. We are role models for all Shinigami. If we do not obey the rules, who will? Ichigo looked at him thoughtfully and took in his words. Sorry, but I still don't get it. If I were you I would definitely fight the rules. I see. Byakuya was coming to understand this strange boy more and more as their battle grew more intense and he could finally answer his earliest question of why Ichigo was fighting. I was never the one he was fighting. From the beginning he was fighting the rules of the Soul Society. He is the same as that infuriatingly liberal man. He took a breath. Your will has shattered my blade, Kurosaki Ichigo. Therefore I can no longer pursue Rukia. The victor of this battle is you. Ichigo stood in silent reflection of what was just said for a moment. I won? A grin finally crossed his face. I won. Holy shit, I won. He exclaimed to the sky loudly before falling backwards. Ah, fuck. I can't stand. He fell backwards right into Orihime, smashing into the back of her head where he fell to the ground. holding his head. Sorry Kurosaki-kun, are you okay? She asked apologetically, my head is as hard as a rock, sorry. I tried catching you but dash dot. Ichigo finally realized who it was that was there with him, Inoue? He looked past her and saw the others, Chad, Yuryu, Ganju, and some other guy? The other guy waved himself off as unimportant, I'm so glad everyone's alright. Yuryu tilted the glasses on his face, we're not unharmed per se, but compared to you our injuries are insubstantial. Ichigo looked over to Orihime, who began waving her hands frantically, I'm completely fine Kurosaki-kun. Even though I was completely useless, Ishida-kun and Shinigami-san protected me. And Zaraki-san carried me. So I was never in any danger at all. She then calmed down, but you, I'm so sorry Kurosaki-kun that I wasn't able to help you. So thank you for staying alive. I'm so glad that you're okay. Ichigo looked straight up at the sky and let out a laugh, thanks Inoue. XXX. With Naruto. Ow. Naruto, covered in minute singes and scratch marks, mumbled to himself as he found himself thrown from the cliff that he and Yamamoto were fighting onto the ground below, thank you Sage Mode. Otherwise that would have hurt like hell. Naruto stood up and looked around, okay. Now do I have enough time to climb up there and call it my win or what? I don't think you do Uzumaki. Naruto turned around and suddenly saw Yamamoto standing there, holding his Zanpakuto in its sealed cane form, damn it. How the hell did you get over here so fast? I just got up. That really hurt. Yamamoto jerked his head in the direction he came from, well you fell off of the cliff because you had the brilliant idea to stand on top of the Tsukioku when our attacks hit. I didn't, I was on the ground. Naruto let off a sweat drop, okay, I'll accept that. He set himself back into a fighting stance, now let's finish this. That didn't even hurt and I didn't even use that much chakra. So then why were you moaning ouch just a moment ago? Yamamoto asked him. Because I bit my tongue when I landed. Naruto said with a deadpan face, do you really care? Let's fight already. Hold that thought. Before Naruto and Yamamoto could continue fighting, Shunsui and Yukitake appeared in front of Naruto with their Zanpakuto drawn and at the ready at Yamamoto. I can't let you keep trying to kill the kid Yamaji. Kid my ass crack. Naruto shouted at Shunsui, and where were you two when all of this started? We could have beaten his ass by now if you two had shown up sooner. Shunsui turned to Naruto and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly, we expected him to chase us away from the Tsukioku. We didn't know he'd think you were more important to fight than us. On the other hand, Yukitake pondered, I do have that illness so I couldn't go that far that fast, and we're his students so he probably figured he could have gotten to us at any time, while this Uzumaki was the one that had run roughshod over the Seriidii and hadn't been captured. Shrugging, Shunsui turned back to Yamamoto, either way, we've got your back. Something stinks about this whole thing and I don't like it one bit. Yamamoto leered angrily at Yukitake and Shunsui, and you two are willing to go all the way with your betrayal and take up arms against me? Yukitake tried to salvage the remains of the situation, we are not betraying you Yamamoto-sama. Rukia is my responsibility and this is wrong. I must defend her from an injustice like this. Before they could begin the battle a new message flashed through all of their heads, binding successful. Captains, lieutenants, and temporary lieutenants of the Godei 13, as well as the Ryoka. This is Lieutenant Kotetsu Aisane of the 4th Division speaking. Please listen carefully. Can everyone hear me? An emergency situation has occurred. This emergency transmission is under the authority of Captain Unohana Retsu of the 4th Division and myself. Everything I'm about to say is absolutely true. The message caused everyone to narrow their eyes and look back up at Tsukioku Hill. Naruto snapped his fingers and shouted his current opinion, yes. I knew that damn sword in the wall was suspicious as hell. Shunsui sighed, this is probably not the best time to be doing this Yamaji. The three captains sped off towards the Tsukioku the long way with Shuinpa. Naruto watched them leave and looked up at the summit of the hill where he scoffed, like hell I'm running around and taking the long way. I'm taking the shortcut. Looking up he growled to himself, this is going to suck, climbing halfway up pissed me off. Now I have to go the whole way? He ran at the cliff face with a war cry and latched on, digging his sage mode enhanced fingers into the rock to begin climbing swiftly. XXX. Tsukioku Hill. You always were the most troublesome one of the bunch Abarai-kun. Aizen said calmly as he easily broke Renji's shurikai and wounded him deeply. I knew from the second I met you, Kira-kun, and Hinamori-kun that I could use you three. Thus when you all graduated I had you put in the 5th Division. The other more useful two became mine Jin's direct subordinates, and as for you, the problematic one, I kicked you to another division immediately. And my instincts were correct. Now for the last time, put Kachiki down and move away. I refuse. Renji roared at the rogue captain. Rukia tried to convince him to let her go. Renji, just dash dot. I told you to be quiet, Rukia. He grinned at Aizen, you can't have her, you bastard. Aizen lifted his sword up, how unfortunate. His slash meant to finish Renji off was blocked by Ichigo and Bankai. Why are you on the ground, Renji? Is Rukia that heavy? I'm here to help. Renji looked away. Ichigo, sorry you had to come and save dash dot. Ichigo cut him off jokingly, you look pretty beat up considering that you were only carrying Rukia around. Was the load that heavy for you to run with? The two began to argue before settling down and taking note of the situation. So that's Aizen. Can you still fight, because we won't be able to outrun all three of them? He said, noting that Ikamaru Jin and Tosen Kaname were behind him watching. Renji nodded, Zabumaru's broken form still has its uses. Then let's get this started. Ichigo said, looking at Aizen menacingly. Renji held his sword up for a particular technique. I can only do this once, but it will definitely make an opening. Against a captain like him you can only hope for a small advantage, you'll have to move fast. Higazeku, bite of a broken baboon's fang. The pieces of his broken shuriken levitated in the air around Aizen and attacked him. The attack kicked up dust from the damage, but gave Ichigo an opening to rush in and attack. However, when he got close enough to attack, Aizen stopped his attack with one finger and slashed Ichigo across the belly. It appears my swing was too shallow. I meant to cut off everything below the waist. Aizen then vanished and reappeared behind Renji, having already cut him down as well, leaving him alone with Rukia. Stand up, Kachiki Rukia. When she couldn't stand he shook his head, of course. My Ryatsu is making it hard for you to stand. He grabbed her by her prisoner's collar and began to drag her along. Looking over at Ichigo, who was still conscious, he taunted the downed Ichigo, you must really hate the fact that your strength doesn't equal the level of your vitality, though it would be best to cease with that recklessness. Right now your spine is the only thing holding your body together. Getting up would destroy your body. Just lay there quietly until you pass on. Your mission is over. Ichigo looked at him in shock. Everything you've done so far since your first steps trying to enter the Seriidii were all directed by me. You made things quite easy to make our moves. He shook his head at Ichigo. You don't even know why Urahara Kasuke really sent you here, do you? He sent you here for the one thing that can help a Shinigami break their most concrete boundaries. Urahara Kasuke created a substance that reacts beyond the physics of the Soul Society. Something that can easily dissolve the barrier between Shinigami and Hollow. The Hogyoku, crumbling sphere. He tried to destroy it due to its danger, but he could only do one thing. He placed a barrier around it and placed it within the depths of a person's soul. If you haven't figured it out yet, the place he hid it in was inside Kachiki Rukia. Aizen pointed at her. Eventually you would have lost all of your Ryoryoku and become human to hide his device. He was never helping you. He took amusement in the look on her face. You look troubled. Before he could continue his explanation, a large captain with a wolf's head burst into the area and attacked Aizen. For your lies and betrayal of all of us I will give you no mercy. He noticed Kaname behind him. And you, Tosen, do you have anything to say? The man remained silent. Nothing at all? How disappointing. Bankai. Before he could gather the energy necessary to activate his Bankai, Aizen appeared in front of him. Had a number 90, Kurohitsuji, Way of Destruction number 90, Black Coffin. Goodbye Kamimura. A black box of energy surrounded Kamimura as a mass of energy spears penetrated the box, piercing Kamimura and swiftly defeating him. Spells that high in number are truly more difficult to handle. That attack was not as strong as it should have been with the incantation. Now where was I? Aizen turned his attention back to Rukia. Oh yes. He said, getting back on track. After I discovered you in the human world I murdered the Central 46 and used my Zanpakuto's ability to hypnotize others into thinking all was well. I have been there ever since I faked my death. The Sukyoku execution method to extract the Hogyoku failed, so I must use the secondary way. His arm took on a strange form and impaled Rukia through the chest, where he pulled out a tiny ball covered in a crystal-looking barrier. It's so small. He looked down at Rukia, whose wound was healing, and the recipient of the technique was unharmed. But sadly you are no longer of any use to me. He looked over at Jin and Kaname. One of you kill her. Jin and Kaname walked forward with Jin pulling out his Zanpakuto, Ikaros Senjutsu, Raisin Rengen, Sage Technique, Spiraling Group Spheres. Naruto came up from behind Jin and Kaname and hit them both with twin Raisengans in both hands that sent them both flying. Taking advantage of the confusion, a heavily wounded Byakuya rescued Rukia from Aizen's grasp. Naruto slid across the ground hard, leaving a scratch in the earth as he came to a stop before glaring at Aizen from a crouched position. I should have just played pack-rat and grabbed that little sword in the wall when I first saw it. That would have fucked your plans all up, wouldn't it? Aizen drew his Zanpakuto and Naruto cursed, having discarded his sage coat earlier to fight Yamamoto without getting it burned. Before he could begin a fight with Naruto, Yoruichi and Soifan surrounded him with Yoruichi holding his Zanpakuto and Soifan holding hers to his neck. If you move even a single muscle you'll lose your head. Very well. Aizen said, as right on cue two giants, the keepers of the other gates emerged, destroying much property in the Seriidii. Not even you two can come after me while fighting those giants at the same time. Yoruichi and Soifan were legitimately considering letting him go to protect the Seriidii. Shinra Tensei, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god. From where Naruto was standing, an invisible blast of gravity tore up half of the cliff he was standing at the edge of and hit the giant men, pancaking them into craters in the ground and swiftly defeating them in one move. Naruto's sage mode dropped. Great, too much time passed for me to put that much behind Shinra Tensei and keep sage mode. Fine, I still have one clone left and the first one lasted a long time. He turned back to Aizen once he felt the sky rip open above the Tsukyuku. The other captains had Aizen, Kaname, and Jin surrounded until that opening was formed with multiple Minos Grande peeking through trying to spill out. 3 beams emerged from the hole and snatched the 3 perpetrators up. Naruto's eyes angrily went into sage mode again as he formed 2 Kage Bunshin swiftly while they were slowly levitating away. They quickly formed a Raisin Shuriken. No you don't, you son of a bitch, this is all your fault. I'll vaporize you here and now. Futon, Raisin Shuriken, Wind Release, Spiraling Shuriken. Naruto launched the attack right at the mouth of the hole in the sky where the Minos Grande all were. Naruto no. Yoruichi yelled at him once he launched the attack. Nothing we do can touch Aizen from here. The light he's in is technically in another dimension. The attack flew into the sky and hit the inside of the hollow hole, eradicating each Minos Grande in the resulting explosion. Naruto glared up at Aizen and lifted his hand at him. Get down here, damn you. Banzho Tenin, heavenly attraction of all creation. No matter how much force Naruto pumped into the jutsu, none of the conspirators were pulled down an inch. What are you trying to do? He roared at Aizen. You betrayed all of these people, your comrades. You orchestrated the death of someone innocent and killed so many people. What the hell was it all for? He roared at Aizen. Yukitake shook his head. You truly have fallen, Aizen. To go higher. Aizen said simply, no one starts on top of the world. Not you, not me, not even the gods. But the unbearable vacancy of the throne in the sky is over. He took his glasses off as his appearance radically changed. From now on I will be sitting on it. He turned his back on everyone. Goodbye Shinigami, and goodbye young Ryoka. You really are an interesting bunch, for humans. He disappeared into the portal as the sky closed. Naruto was seething in rage at Aizen getting away. Not again, never again. I'm never letting anyone like that gain power ever again. He yelled, surprising everyone around him. Yoruichi walked up and put a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, calm down. He's gone. We can't pursue him from here. Look around. She gestured to the area surrounding them and all of the wounded about across not just the hill, but all over the Seriidii. There are more important things to do right now. This entire place has been turned upside down and needs to recover. Naruto's breathing steadily slowed down and he deactivated his Rinnegan before plopping down on the ground, taking a seat. Naruto ran a hand through his hair and calmly shrugged off the attempts at medical attention. He was fine. The 4th Division was all about healing the others. He saw Orihime tending to Ichigo, Rukia sitting next to her deeply wounded older brother Byakuya, and the other wounded getting treatment. He looked up at Soifan who was standing nearby with Yoruichi. So, you still want to kill me? Soifan glared down at him before shaking her head and softening her glance to her normal impassive look. No. Everything is over. Like Yoruichi-sama said, there are more important things happening right now. There is no need to be angry with you. Naruto nodded and hopped to his feet. Okay, so let's try this again, but more pleasant this time. He held out his hand. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, nice to meet you. Soifan rolled her eyes and walked away, huffing and going to find her lieutenant. Naruto stood blinking as she walked away and turned to Yoruichi. I thought she didn't want to kill me anymore. Yoruichi let out a short laugh, and she doesn't. She just doesn't like you much either. Naruto kneeled on the ground and played in the dirt dejectedly muttering, "Why doesn't she like me?" Getting Yoruichi to pat him on the head. "It's okay Naruto, she'll come around, or not. Now come on. Let's go check on the others." Naruto stood back up and dusted himself off when Yoruichi handed him his sage coat. He smiled and put it back on as they walked over to check on the other members of their group, but his eyes drifted back up to the sky and narrowed.